Hi there. In this video we'll be covering, can I hire someone to help me write a book? The goal isn't simply to find someone to help you write a book, but the right someone, because picking the wrong person could cost you lots of time, energy, and money. By the end of this video, you will learn the two types of book professionals who can help you, the differences between them, and how to know which path is right for you. And stay tuned until the end of the video for a free opportunity. Let's dive in. Go to any bookstore, walk inside, go to the bookshelf, pick up a book, and more likely than not, the book that you've picked up was written with the help of somebody else other than the author on the cover. So many of the books that we see, especially popular books, are either written with ghostwriters or written with the help of writing coaches. A lot of times if you flip to the acknowledgement section in the book, you can actually see deciphering through code of in what capacity somebody helped. A lot of times they'll be listed as a book editor or a helper or an assistant or the person who helped me gather my stories. There's all these different terms that come into play. A lot of people don't actually write Ghostwriter, but it's far too common. It's very, very common. It happens more than you think. It was interesting for me recently to walk into a bookstore and go to the business section and pick up a book that I ghost wrote. That there might be 5 people in the world that know about this, that I actually ghost wrote this book, but here it was in the bookstore, picked it up and looked at it, and it was a really cool feeling. But it's interesting because this isn't even somebody famous. This isn't even somebody you would think would ghostwrite, but a lot of my clients aren't famous. You know, they have success. They've been very successful or they have important stories to tell, but so many people work with ghostwriters and writing coaches to tell their stories, and they're a great way to be able to make progress. So let's explore writing coaches further. When you think about a coach of a sports team, for example, they are somebody who gives you insights, advice. Sometimes they have to bark orders, although I don't recommend that for book writing. They're somebody who is helping other people play the game. And, you know, writing coaches are similar. Writing coaches help the authors along. You know, the author and the writing coach will meet regularly and talk through different areas of the book. The writing coach will review different passages and pages and chapters that the author sends to them and send them back. And it's a really great accountability process. It's a great system of maintaining positive progress, of continuing forward. You know, when you have consistent meetings as an author, it's a lot more likely that you're going to take the time to do some work. Even if you don't want to, because you have a meeting coming up and you say, oh my gosh, my meeting with my writing coach is coming up. I need to get some work done so I can show them. So there's this accountability structure in place, and writing coaches can be really great at helping a project along and helping authors to finish their book. The other option for book authors is to work with a ghostwriter. Ghostwriters like myself, I also do writing coaching, but I mainly do ghostwriting. Ghostwriters are professionals who help the author tell their stories, who actually oversee the writing themselves, and then send the material back to the author for review. Typically with a ghostwriting project, I will meet with the author regularly, maybe once a week. From that meeting, I will gather information, write on my own, send back material for review, and we keep going forward from there. You know, and it's great to be able to make progress, especially for busy people, for CEOs, for thought leaders, for people who might not have the time to do writing themselves. A lot of my clients are pretty good writers on their own. They write other things. They write essays, they write blog posts, they write articles online, but they need help writing a book because they don't have the time. They're very busy, and working with me allows them to get their time back and allows them to tell their story and refine their message and carry it forward in book form. So there are obviously differences between writing coaching and ghostwriting. And sometimes there's a blurry line in between where both parties will do some writing, but a lot of times with a writing coach, the author is the one doing the writing, and a lot of times with a ghostwriter, the ghostwriter is the one doing the writing. And then there's that give and take back and forth. You know, so it's really interesting to operate in both of those systems. You know, I find that the people who benefit the most from a writing coach are people who are adept at writing, have had a lot of success with writing. They just need some book progress. They need some accountability. You know, maybe if you're somebody who has lots and lots of writing experience but doesn't quite know what you're doing with a book, a writing coach is probably the right pick for you. And if you're somebody who doesn't have the time to write or doesn't have the skill to write a book, you're probably somebody who wants to work with a ghostwriter. I've seen people work with the wrong person and find themselves in a sticky situation that requires an adjustment. Sometimes there's a good reason why. Sometimes maybe they start working with the ghostwriter, and once they start building momentum and understanding what the ghostwriter is doing, they then author can start to write more chapters themselves. I've also seen it where, especially with projects I work on, where I will do writing coaching with the client and work with them, and over time there might be elements of the story that I pick up as a ghostwriter and say, can I take a crack at this? You know, can I work on the introduction? Can I send some ideas your way? And it's typically the areas of the book that they're really struggling with the most. So it's neat to be able to go back and forth and kind of put on those different hats. But it's also great to see the authors I work with being empowered to write. Because a lot of times they start working with me as a ghostwriter and then they say, can I take a crack at this chapter? And I'm like, of course. I think it's awesome. I love to see that. So it's great to be able to have that balance. Another difference between the two is the price point. The price point for ghostwriting is a lot higher than with writing coaching. Writing coaching could, cost up to $10,000 or less, depending on how long you engage with them. I think a lot of the projects I work on for writing coaching might end up somewhere in the $5,000 to $7,000 range over the course of 6 months. So if you're looking at $1,500 a month or something in that range, I think that's pretty common. But different writing coaches have different price points as well. So it's interesting to be able to navigate that. Similarly with ghostwriters, there's a wide range of rates for ghostwriters. If you're trying to find a established, solid ghostwriter, you're probably looking at $30,000 or more for the full book. There could be elements of that that could bring down the price if you've done a lot of work on the book already. Maybe you have a really solid draft that just needs some refinement and you want to work with a ghostwriter to punch it up. That's obviously going to be a smaller amount of money, but ghostwriters typically cost more money. So there's a range there that it's important to be able to, find the right rate for you. I often will meet with people who want to work with a ghostwriter, but don't have the money for it. And it's frustrating when there's that disconnect, but it's an understandable thing. It does cost money. When I think about you making the right decision for yourself, I really narrow it down to 3 different things. Those things are price, writing skill, and need. With need, if you need this done quickly, you should work with a ghostwriter. If you have a deadline of a couple months, you want to work with a ghostwriter. If you are casually taking your time on this and don't have a looming deadline, and want to do the writing yourself, you would want to hire and work with a writing coach. Writing skills a big one too, because you could wind up working with a writing coach, but if you don't have the writing skill necessary to finish the book, you're never going to finish it. There's that looming, ongoing finish line that just keeps going and going and going, and you're never going to get there if you don't have the skill as a writer to be able to carry it forward. You can make progress, of course, but it's going to be really tough for you to finish. So writing skill is another one that you really need to think about. If you're somebody who feels comfortable with your writing but just needs some guidance, I would say writing coach is the right pick for you. If you're somebody who doesn't feel confident in your writing and wants to work with a professional, you should choose a ghostwriter. And price I've already covered. A lot of times people will look to cut cost or find somebody who costs less money, especially in the ghostwriting side. But a lot of times you get what you pay for. If you end up finding a ghostwriter who works at a lower rate, it's more likely that they are either less qualified, less experienced, or just not the right fit for you. So it's really important to, as you consider a ghostwriter, to do your due diligence, do your homework, read what they've written, talk to their previous clients. You want to know that they've worked with other clients. You want to know that they've done this before. I look at my own journey as a ghostwriter as a good example. I was somebody who came from a journalism background and spent a decade or more in journalism newsrooms, in daily news newsrooms, many of them in New York City. So I had a lot of writing experience. But when I shifted to books, I didn't quite understand exactly what made a great book. And I was still learning how to work with clients and getting their message forward. And all these little things that I had to learn over time in building my process and building my understanding of books. It took me a long time to get there. And you can find a less experienced ghostwriter for less money, and they may be a great writer, but there's still little things they probably don't know. So the best thing for you, if you're really interested in writing a great book, is to work with a great ghostwriter. But you need to be able to do your due diligence, do your homework, interview them, talk to their previous clients, make sure that they're the right fit for you, because this is a huge commitment. If you want to learn more about hiring someone to help you write your book, head to my website, goodghostwriter.com. You can click the link below. There you can schedule a one-on-one strategy call with me, and we can talk all about your book. We can talk about the struggles you're facing, the pain points, and the path forward, and I can help you figure out which path is best for you, whether you want to work with a writing coach or a ghostwriter. I can steer you forward, and I know lots and lots of good people. If it's not me who would be right for the project, I know lots of people that I can connect you with. So head to my website, schedule a call with me, and let's talk about your book. Remember, a good book can change your life. I'm Dan Good. Thanks for watching.